Our service is about to begin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore, a welcoming and inclusive faith community. Thank you for joining us. We who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all on our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, more love. All of us gathered here together. My name is Cynthia Javinsky, and I am your worship associate this morning. I'm a member of this congregation and currently serve it on a couple of committees. I'm a member of the choir. I sometimes play flute and piano, and I'm also a member of the Buddhist Sangha. Our worship service today is led by our minister, Reverend Dawn Fortune. Video of the service and a printable copy of the sermon will be available on our website and Facebook page later today. If you care to tweet during today's service, you can use the hashtag UUCSJS. If you are hard of hearing, closed captioning of the whole service is available on the YouTube recording that will be posted this afternoon. If you are joining from a computer or smartphone, you are encouraged to type any joys or concerns in the chat box area on your screen. In most platforms, it can be accessed by a chat icon at either the top or bottom of the page. And the chat section will open where you can leave a comment and see what others have said. Please remember that this video will be on the internet, so please don't share any information that is best kept private. Welcome to worship.
Welcome. Welcome into this place of healing. Welcome into this place of challenge and growth. Welcome into this place of imperfection and aspiration. Here you are whole in your brokenness, you are holy in your shame, and you are wholly loved as you are always. Our words for lighting our chalice this morning come to us from Reverend Teresa Soto, who was one of the guest preachers in this summer's worship series. This is called Spilling the Light. It's a little bit longer than our normal chalice lightings, but I thought it was good for today. It's called Spilling the Light, and it is found in a collection of poetry and meditations by that name, by her, or by them, and printed by Skinner House Books. So, some people are used to keeping rules. Don't cross the street when the light is red, only sensible. It turns out that keeping rules isn't the same as keeping covenant, which asks us, instead of keeping a bright line, to keep our promises. To what have we promised ourselves? To this moment in time and place, to this community, and even tenderly interconnected this planet. We promised ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings. We promised that there is something moving between us that we cannot tame and cannot measure. The chalice is a reminder of that flame we keep inside and cannot light the way. The light must spill to shine. The thing you must be is yourself, unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone as though you are made of something hard and unforgivable. You are human. You belong right here, right now. And together we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, and leave only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth. I'll now light our chalice, a symbol of our free and illuminating faith. I invite you now to join along by singing at home with our gathering hymn, Wake Now My Senses, sung by our member Katie Cardwell.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle
This morning, we are mourning the loss of a great person. For the kids out there, you may have noticed your grown-ups seem a little sad or a little angry, maybe even a little scared or worried. And you may be feeling some of these feelings too. This service was originally planned to be about honoring our ancestors and about the turning of the wheel. Well, on Friday, Ruth Bader Ginsburg became one of our ancestors. So today, we can still honor our ancestors. We can still talk about the cycle of life. And we can honor the life and work of the notorious RBG. Ruth Bader Ginsburg became a judge for the U.S. Supreme Court of the United States in 1993. Now, the Supreme Court is an important part of our government. The judges on the Supreme Court make sure that the laws of our country are being followed, and they make sure that no new laws are made that break the rules of our country or treat people unfairly. Ginsburg was only the second woman to ever be appointed to the Supreme Court, even though it's been around since 1789. Born in Brooklyn in 1933, she became only one of a handful of female students in her law school classes at Harvard and then Columbia. She was chided for taking away the place of a qualified male student. Despite graduating first in her class, Ginsburg encountered gender discrimination in seeking employment as a lawyer. Law firms didn't want to hire a woman lawyer, especially one who had a husband and children. As a lawyer and later as a judge, Ginsburg fought for gender and marriage equality, for the rights of workers and people with disabilities. She fought to protect our environment and our right to vote, as well as for the separation of church and state. With her now famous I Dissent, she gave us a model of power and an example in how to use your voice to stand up for what you believe in, even if it isn't popular. Following her death this past Friday, Chief Justice John Roberts remarked that our nation has lost a jurist of historic stature. Today, we mourn, but with confidence, that future generations will remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg as we knew her, a tireless and resolute champion of justice. Aaron Carmen, the author of the book, The Notorious RBG, tells us how we can be like RBG. Work for what you believe in, but pick your battles and don't burn your bridges. Don't be afraid to take charge. Think about what you want, then do the work. Enjoy what makes you happy, bring along your crew, and have a sense of humor. The wheel of the year turns toward a new season, and the cycles of life and death have given us yet another ancestor in Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May we all live our lives in the honorable way of fighting for the most vulnerable among us, and may her memory be a blessing to us all.
Thanks, Jess. That was very inspiring. Really meant a lot to me anyway. All right, so during this next musical interlude, we invite you to write your joys and sorrows in the chat portion of your Zoom screen. The icon will either be on the top or bottom of your screen and will allow you to enter the text into the panel where others can see it. At the end of the musical interlude, Reverend Dawn will read what you would share with the congregation gathered here today. Please remember that a recording of today's service will be available on the internet. So as a reminder, again, please do not share things that should not be posted on the internet.
Every week we gather, like a lot of congregations around our denomination, and we make time to share the things that are on our minds and on our hearts, the things that bring us joy, the things that cause us sorrow or concern. Different congregations do it in different ways, and now that we are online, this is the way that we do it. Is you've been invited to write your joys and sorrows in the chat, and I'll read now what you would share, particularly for those who are calling in or don't have access to a screen where they can read. Deb Dagavarian says hello to Arcady and Dylan. Great to see you again. I presume baby Evelyn is wrangled somewhere nearby. Yes. It's good to see your faces again. The Van der Schurs hope for all children to have a good year at school, particularly from Love Leo. Barbara Miller is grateful for this hour and the weekly reminder that you are whole in your brokenness. Sheila remarks that she is just numb, still processing losing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A lot of comments about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Terry Ballas is thankful for the beautiful weather this weekend. Kim Trotto, I love this. Sorry that we had to lose Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Joy that we had her at all. Gail and Pace are grateful to see a new day and that they miss us all. We miss you as well. Good to see you. Prayers for Eric and Priscilla's wedding preparation from Julie. And Tracy Stubb is grateful that she is in a new school where she's teaching in a supportive school up in Jackson, New Jersey. Congratulations, Tracy. Let us be in the spirit of prayer. We pray this morning, as we have for the past month, for those who are affected by the fires ravaging the western half of this continent, and for those whose breath is by the smoke all over the country. I know that I Thursday evening was able to smell smoke in my house here in New Jersey. For our Jewish friends and neighbors who are celebrating the new year of Rosh Hashanah with apples and honey and sweet delicacies, we offer our hearts in their celebrations. And now, of course, we must speak that truth in a sad way that is necessary today. We grieve together at the loss of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died Friday on the very eve of Rosh Hashanah. According to Jewish tradition, only the most righteous of persons die on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. And Ginsburg died Friday evening, close to the hour of sundown that marks the Sabbath and the beginning of the New Year celebration. Justice Ginsburg was Jewish, only the second woman ever appointed to the highest court, and she had hoped to retire 4 years ago and have her replacement named by the first woman to be elected president of the United States. But that was not to be, and so at the age of 83, she decided to, 83, she decided to remain. And so she stayed on the court, working through hardship and illness and multiple cancer diagnoses, even attending sessions from her hospital bed. Her scholarship and judicial insight were profound and have had and will have long-lasting impact on the trajectory of law in the United States. She always sought to include everyone in laws that said that everyone had particular rights. Everyone, she argued, included women and minorities, and many others who have been historically marginalized by the law in this country. All means all, she argued. and she made a lot of progress. It is her work that will be her legacy. The freedoms that so many have today can be traced back to her efforts on the court. And that is what marks her as among the most righteous. The Jewish faith does not emphasize the idea of an afterlife of rest or pain. So to wish her to rest in peace is not entirely appropriate. Instead of resting or being in a better place, the Jewish tradition focuses instead on a person's legacy. The legacy, for instance, of Moses, or Abraham, or Ruth and Naomi, the prophet Isaiah, King David, Deborah, and Jael. So let Justice Ginsburg's legacy be an inspiration to us then. May her memory spark a revolution of justice that will flow down like water, as described by the Hebrew prophet Amos. We grieve the Jewish community to suffer the loss of this icon of strength and integrity, and we acknowledge the grief and loss we may be feeling at the same time. May it stir us to action. We pray, as we do every week, for those who are apart from us, whether for distance, time, or conflict unresolved. We pray for those who thirst, whether for water, dignity, or justice. We pray for our small, blue, fragile planet, and for our similarly small, fragile democracy. Amen.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
We now take a moment to give and receive the morning offering. That looks and feels a little different when we are separated. Am I being heard? Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing my green on the mic jump up and down. That looks and feels a little different when we are separated by distance. Instead of placing a check or cash in the basket, there are different ways to practice your generosity. You can send a check to our P.O. box or arrange for a regular payment be sent through your bank. I'm also posting a link to our website that will allow you to click the donate button and go ahead and make a donation in that way. To all of you who are faithfully submitting your checks regularly, I thank you. Each Unitarian Universalist congregation is self-supporting, and your financial support is essential to us. A gift at any level is appreciated, and no matter how those gifts are offered, they are always most gratefully received.
Our reading this morning is the poem, When Great Trees Fall, by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed, they existed. We can be and be better, for they existed.
Yesterday was a very long day. A very long day involving 4 trains, much walking, and far too much coffee to be healthy. After hearing the news Friday night of the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I decided to travel to Washington, D.C. on Saturday to be there. I had no plans about what I might do, save to witness what people were saying and doing, and to be there in whatever shared experience might present itself. Yesterday, in the area in front of the building that houses the United States Supreme Court, the experience was powerful and sad and a little weird. I'm used to being in Washington with a group, attending an event, usually involving some sort of march or parade. I am used to chanting and shouting and flags waving and often glitter or beads. But yesterday, it was quiet. People walked to the Supreme Court building mostly silently. Some carried flowers. Some were leading or pushing or carrying children of various sizes. Nobody was laughing or flirting or chanting clever things. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced before. It was not organized, but it was not chaos. There were no leaders, but it was not without purpose. There were no instructions, but it wasn't disorderly. There were no key points to emphasize when talking to the media. The media people were actually pretty low key, all said. There were no set hours. There was no agenda. There were barricades and a couple of bored-looking security cops, but they weren't on high alert because the mood was not hostile. It was just sad. Terribly, terribly sad. What happened yesterday and what happened Friday night were simply spontaneous public expressions of grief, shared grief, communal grief, experienced by a nation of people concerned for justice and for the future of our republic. We needed to be together in that moment. And I didn't see a lot of people hugging and crying on one another like you do often in the aftermath of a tragedy or a traumatic event. People tried to maintain social distance as best they could. Nearly all of them wore masks and wore them correctly. People tended to stay with the groups they came with and would stand quietly in what looked to me like contemplation or perhaps prayer. And then they would place their flowers or balloon or whatever it was that they brought on the ever expanding pile. And then they would stand back and look at their expression of pain in its place in the collective body that had emerged from so many other singular expressions of that same pain. I have preached before from the Gospel of John. Some of you have heard it. It's not a thing I do often. John's a little wobbly when it comes to reason and logic, but he's a mystic and he tells some beautiful stories. And there's that one piece in chapter 11 that tends to be my go-to passage in times of grief and loss. It's the story of Jesus and Lazarus and Mary and Martha. Now, Christian ministers will focus on the part of that story in which Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, after Martha reads him the riot act for showing up late, and Mary tends to things in the kitchen. But I stop before Lazarus is risen. I focus instead on the moment when Jesus arrives on the scene and learns that his friend has died. In his pain and his grief, he cries. In a time when the affluent would hire mourners to wail and cry at their funerals, for a man to weep without being paid was proof of deep love indeed. And the crowd commented to him, "Look at him weeping. How he must have loved him." And this is the part that is universal. Not the resurrection, not the miracles or the faith or anything else. It is the pain of loss, the grief we feel when someone we care about, even if we don't know them personally or well, but when that someone we care about dies. Grief is the price we pay for caring. Grief is the price we pay for allowing ourselves to love. It is as though no thing, no feeling can exist without something to act against it. Sir Isaac Newton told us that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And we understand that when it comes to physics, or at least we trust that it works, even if we don't entirely understand the physics part of it. We can understand that we must swelter through the summer months to appreciate mornings like today, that cool, crisp fall air, just as we must shiver through the winter in order to appreciate the first magnificently warm days of spring. But what does it mean for us to need to love in order to feel pain and loss? Is it some sort of cruel joke of the universe that our pain is in direct proportion to our love? That the intensity of our joy is in direct inverse relationship to that of our sadness? Is this the essence of the human condition? That we must feel everything in equal measure? That for every bit of hope and exhilaration we may have felt during the 8 years of the previous administration, that we must now feel similar measures of fear and despair for there to be some sort of cosmic balance? Are we fated to be at the mercy of this perverse dichotomy? And to be honest, I don't have an answer to that question. There are psychologists and philosophers and theologians who have wrestled with just those questions for hundreds of years. I'm a simple preacher who likes to bang on metal for fun. That level of discourse is far, far above my pay grade. Well, I cannot explain the great mysteries of the universe, nor the reasons behind the way humans feel and experience our lives in this realm. I can speak about what I am able to observe and deduce in my own simple way. The dawn requires the night for it to exist. Dusk requires the sun for it to happen. There is a sacred kind of mathematics that causes the planets and stars to all spin and rotate and do their things, each in their own place all around the galaxy. There is some great and grand natural science at work there, far beyond my understanding. But when a body reaches the apex of its cycle, it must once again return to its nadir. That means that the earth must tilt as far as it can in one direction and then return and tilt as far as it can in the other. It means that the moon affects the tides and the energy levels of humans from preschoolers to adults. It means that in order for us to see the stars, the sky must be dark. If we are to truly treasure something, it must be vulnerable, and so must we. Sometimes it is the pain that reminds us that we have a heart left at all. The past 4 years have been brutal for a lot of people. Some of us, myself included, have begun to feel numb, beyond emotion. Past outrage, past grief or pain or fear, we're overwhelmed. And then something will happen. Even something we really had every reason to expect to happen sooner rather than later. And we will again feel the sharp stab of pain when someone who is important to us, someone we care about, is gone. As the Tin Man said to Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, now I know I have a heart because it is breaking. It is in this losing that we are reminded that we are not deadened souls. It is in our ability to notice the loss of the summer that fades away with falling leaves and brings the crisp, cooler air of autumn. The fall equinox is that moment between the extremes, the time when the earth is balanced between its longest day and its longest night. It's time when the teeter-totter of our seasonal cycle is balanced perfectly. This is a time when it makes sense to consider the two extremes that our human instincts seem to crave. Dual nature that is simple, up or down, hot or cold, right or left, heads or tails, zeros or ones. We are in this liminal space today, between the high days of summer and the dark nights of winter. And in this ultimate of midpoints, we are reminded again of how the extremes define the center. The joy is countered by the grief. The hope is countered by the disappointment. The amount of love we feel is reflected in the amount of grief we experience. And so I'm here this morning to tell you to embrace it. Embrace that grief. Feel it. Feel it and express it with guttural screams or silent tears or whatever it is that you do to express pain and grief. Do that. And do not be ashamed or embarrassed. Engage in those collective expressions of shared grief. Acknowledge that you feel as deeply as others and that they understand how much you're hurting too. Because it is only through caring deeply that we are able to feel the exquisite pain at the end of a joyful thing. How great it has been. See him weep. How he must have loved him. May we always strive to feel deeply all that life offers us. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing words come to us today in the form of a short meditation called Embrace the Night, written by my dear friend and colleague, Reverend Jennifer Grayson. Universal mystery, guide us away from the desire to shine light in all the corners. Teach us to embrace the night, for without the darkness, we never see the stars. I invite you now to join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We have some announcements this morning. Reverend Dawn is available for pastoral care appointments Wednesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. This, I believe, Exploring and Claiming Your Own Theology, will take place in October. Register on the website. In our first October service, we will celebrate the feast of St. Francis of Assisi with a blessing of the animals. As we did with our water ritual, you are encouraged to send photographs of your animals to Jess Dunn Safanoff at the administrator email address found on the church website. Be sure to share the name of the animals and who their person is. And please send any pictures to Jess before October 1st or by October 1st. Thank you. Please take the opportunity to keep virtually connected. So for our events this week, there's Heartfulness Meditation, the UUC SJS board meeting, Makerspace, family game night, and the Buddhist Sangha. One note about the Buddhist Sangha, this is the fourth Tuesday of the month, this coming Tuesday, so there will not be a Sangha, but the next Sangha will be the last Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock, and that will be at 10 o'clock a.m., just as a reminder. Thanks. So if you need any more information on any of these events, please visit uucsjs.org. If you need to schedule a meeting or event, please reach out to the admin at uucsjsadmin@gmail.com. for use of the Zoom room or to be added to the calendar. We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting us today. Please stay and socialize in our online social time so that we can get to know each other better. Now let us share in a moment of silence today's message and the meaning it has in our lives.